I'm going to bring you on a little journey, one of self-discovery. If it feels like a mess, that's because life isn't neatly organized. It's a jumble of overlapping thoughts and intersecting experiences. Self-discovery isn't simple. It's not a straight line. Here's one of the stories that makes up who I am. It started as early as I can remember. There was something I thought about every night in bed. I didn't understand it and I didn't have the words for it, but somehow I knew it was a secret. I knew that even if I could find the words to explain, I couldn't tell anyone. It was different, and I only thought about it in bed. That was my safest space to explore the depths of my imagination and self. During that same time period, I had this one t-shirt. It was a simple gray shirt with some blue detailing, but for some reason I thought it was a boy shirt. I don't think I ever told anyone else, but I always thought of it as, oh, that's my boy shirt, and it was really special to me. Years went on, and still that secret went to bed with me every night. But it didn't cross my mind during the day. I still didn't know what it was or what it meant, and still didn't have the words to describe it to myself. It felt even more secret. We'll take a detour in the story now. I'll come back to the unexplainable later. In about grade 5, I decided to create an imaginary character, the kind one might write a book about or draw pictures of. I wanted something to think about at night while falling asleep. I discovered the wonder of character creation, how it was less of planning and deciding, and more like how Michelangelo said, every block of stone has a statue inside it, and it is the task of the sculptor to discover it. This character unfolded before my eyes, and he was confusing. He started to switch between being a boy and a girl. In the story, he was confused, frustrated, upset, and embarrassed. As I went through middle school, his arc continued. He struggled a lot at first, and some of his relationships turned on end. He was scared. I think what helped him most was meeting another character dealing with similar things. He learned to accept and embrace his whole self, and his close friends also accepted him. By the time I got to high school, he was just living life as a person who was sometimes a boy and sometimes a girl, and it wasn't a big deal. He didn't worry about it all the time, and he wasn't frustrated with himself anymore. Meanwhile, for me, it was the same every night. Those feelings that I had felt every night since my earliest memories. I still couldn't explain it to myself, but I felt even more embarrassed, especially when the thoughts would creep into my mind outside of night and outside of the safety of my bed. I pushed them down ferociously. I must have been the only one in the world who was that weird. Sometimes I would have dreams in which I felt complete in a way I never had before, so light and happy, but I would wake up devastated when I wasn't the me from my dream. I was always what everyone called a girly girl, because I love pink and dresses and skirts, dolls and handcrafting, etc. Because I fit so neatly into that box, I didn't question it. I was halfway through high school before I let myself think about it. Even then, I kept the thoughts inside my room with the door closed. By then, every night, it was stronger. The secret that I didn't understand. It pushed up my mind so that I couldn't ignore it. I started poking around online for some magical cure for my confusion and discomfort. I found some interesting stuff. It was related to transgender people. I started to wonder if that's what I was. I hid in my closet and put on my most masculine clothing and put up my hair in a hat and removed my glasses because they had feminine features. And I took selfies to see if I looked more like me. In 11th grade, my girlfriend at the time and I created fictional personas who were like us but gender swapped. I used this to further explore the internal question of, am I a trans man? It didn't feel wrong, but I still hadn't found my answer for sure. That year, I joined my school's GSA with some friends. It was difficult because our homophobic principal decided when and where our club could meet. He didn't do that for any other club. But on one of those Monday mornings at 6 a.m., we sat on the floor in the gym, and the club president started talking about gender identities. All I remember is him saying the word genderqueer and giving a definition. I felt like a piece of my puzzle had fallen out of the sky and right into place. I just felt so much joy, euphoria. I leaned over to my girlfriend and whispered, "Genderqueer, I think that's what I am." She never said anything. We didn't talk about it. It was hard for me to find information on other genderqueer people, but what I did discover was that I was unlikely to be understood or respected as a genderqueer person, so I kept it to myself. I decided I wanted to get my hair cut short. There was this one style I had wanted for years. For some reason, no stylist I saw would cut my hair that way. They always made it more feminine and asked me over and over if I was sure I wanted it that short. Even when I showed them pictures of men, they just wouldn't do it. What was a simple haircut for any guy was impossible for me to obtain. At some point after that, I started pushing those thoughts away again. As it took a lot of energy to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life, I didn't have time to figure out who I was first. In 12th grade, I met a non-binary person. They were really cool and inspired me. I don't know if I ever told them about my own gender exploration. I think at that point I was trying not to think about it, because that couldn't really be who I was. But my friend, knowing they were non-binary and that they preferred gender-neutral pronouns, now that was cool. I admired them. After high school, when I had moved out of my parents' house, I started discovering queer YouTubers such as Ash Ardell and the podcast You're So Brave. They gave me language that helped me to start understanding what I was experiencing. I started to break down the walls in my mind that told me I couldn't really be genderqueer or non-binary. It started making sense again. After a lot of thought and research, I finally admitted it to myself. I am non-binary. I didn't want to suppress myself anymore. It took me a while to tell anyone, though. The more I watched other people online who I related to, the more confident I felt in myself. I knew I wasn't alone, but it was still really hard to tell people. I remember one night having dinner at a friend's house. They laughed at something relating to people requesting the use of gender-neutral pronouns. I forced a laugh. I didn't have the energy to defend, and their laughter took it out of me. I know they didn't mean harm. They just didn't know any better. Every night it was still that same routine. One night, though, something clicked. It was dysphoria. Up until that moment, I didn't think I had that, but there it was, plain and obvious. I didn't know how I didn't connect those dots before. It was dysphoria that visited me every night, as long as I can remember, and having a word for it changed how I felt about it. It didn't solve the problem, but I understood why there was a problem, and that it wasn't something that made me weird and broken. I'm not one to make a huge deal of coming out, as in, my presentation isn't spectacular. I don't come up with a clever pun or bake a cake in pride colors. I prefer just to organically allow it to be a part of me that I present. When I came out as not straight, I only told my parents. For my friends, I would just mention my girlfriend, or that someone other than a man was attractive to me, and most of my friends were queer, so it wasn't weird. Gender is different, because if I don't say anything, I have to deal with every person in my life not calling me the right things, not seeing me for who I am. It's especially scary to come out as something a lot of people think isn't real. A couple of my friends knew that I was an NB before I came out to my husband. With my queer friends, it could just flow with the conversation, and they would accept it without me needing to justify myself. I was scared of having to explain everything to him. But because I wanted him to understand me, I had to. I did a lot of research on how to tell people, how to explain the spectrum of gender. I compiled web pages of information until I felt confident enough to come out. His initial reaction could have gone better. It wasn't hateful, but it was dismissive. I had my first panic attack that night, in bed, the place that was once my safest space to be myself. I was embarrassed and felt unreal and didn't want to exist. But we talked, and over time, my husband had a chance to think and understand. I had to explain that this isn't new, and it isn't because of the people I watch on YouTube or the people I hang out with. It's me, and those things helped me accept myself. A couple of friends and I made the trek to Seattle one day to go to a storytelling workshop specifically for NBs. It was really weird at first. I had never had an interaction where people introduced themselves with their names and pronouns and asked the same of me. The weirdness was followed by a deep sense of ease in my soul. To be surrounded by people who just got it, and I didn't have to explain or justify my existence to any of them. I just got to be. And because it was about storytelling, I got to explore the parallels of me and that old character who kept switching between male and female, who I now know to be gender fluid. I also went to Seattle for my first Pride. I don't have the words to describe the feeling. Every time I saw a genderqueer, non-binary, or transgender flag, I felt like crying because I was finally surrounded by acceptance and understanding. Even though I knew a lot of people there would not respect my non-binary identity, nowhere else in the world had this many people who would. That day I found out one of my best friends is also an NB. That made me really happy. I went to my second Pride after that, same year, with a group of friends. I bought my very first Pride flags, non-binary and genderqueer, because I couldn't choose just one. Seeing other people online with the exact same flags, it adds richness to my own. Every time I see them proudly displayed in my art room, I know I'm not alone. As of making this video, I haven't come out to everybody yet, so if you're watching this, hello, my name is Amberthest, and you may use neutral pronouns for me, such as they, them, theirs. I am not strictly a man or a woman. I am an NB. I'm not sharing this just to come out. It's for other gender non-conforming people to hopefully feel like they aren't alone, and it's to encourage more representation and education. I want people to see themselves reflected in the world even before they know who they are, so they don't feel messed up or alone. The attacks on trans and gender non-conforming people's YouTube channels really scares me, but the need for representation and my desire to be my authentic self outweigh the fear. I will not be erased. We will not be erased. I couldn't possibly share every detail in this video, partly because it would take a lifetime to make, and partly because it's personal and I'm allowed to keep things private. Thank you for watching and listening. Feel free to share your experiences too. The comment section on my channel is a safe space. Have a nice day.